meeting to order at 6:30. Reminder to everybody who's here, please be respectful of each other as you're speaking and listening to each other. First thing, is anyone here for open session? Appears that no one is here, so present company accept. So Katie, on the announcements.
Alright, we have a laundry list of stuff this month, it's like crazy land. Alright, so the library, first off, is doing their Magic the Gathering for ages 13 to 17, but they are having adults come to if you're like super into that kind of stuff. It will be at the Hubbardston Library, and it's this Thursday, 5/9, at 6 p.m. So again, that's Magic the Gathering at the library this Thursday at 6 p.m. Also, this Thursday at 6:30, there's the Gravestone Girls being put on by the Hubbardston Historical Society down by the Williamsville Chapel, and that is this Thursday as well at 6:30. They have more information about that on their Facebook page, so you can read all about what's going on with that, because I can't remember for the life of me all the details. I apologize.
Katie, the Magic Gathering,
Yep.
backing up on, what is that?
That is the
Trading card game.
Oh,
yeah
okay, that's why I wouldn't understand it,
not
we're good.
Dungeons and Dragons, but kind of like that.
Magic
Yeah,
cards,
it's some, yeah, that
I
kinda
didn't know
stuff.
what Magic Gathering meant, I was like.
Magic the Gathering.
Is it like?
That's the full name of the game.
Okay, thank you.
Alright, the seniors are having a strawberry shortcake social on 5/15 at 1:30 at the senior center. They said, I'm pretty sure they said all are welcome to that. They also have the senior center has a lot of stuff going on this month. Get to know your fire department, so that's gonna be on 5/16 at 11 a.m. So that's during the weekday, I think that's like a Wednesday, if I remember correctly. There's a metal recycling day put on by the Board of Health on 5/18 from 10 to 1 at the DPW. You're gonna drive in the second entrance where the old recycling center was, and they'll have places to drop off. They also have a laundry list of acceptable stuff, but basically all metal, and that's free to do, so get rid of anything you still have lying around the house, old grills, washing machine, things like that. Plainview will have their spring fling on 5/18 and 5/19, that's the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 10 to 4. Both days, they're going to have lots of vendors, and food will be down there, like Giacomo's and things like that. They have a lot of local crafters. You go down and check out the alpacas, and you can see their new farm store too, that they put in, last year. But that's again, 5/18 and 5/19. On the same weekend, 5/18, the Rod and Gun, if you wanna listen to some music and go to the food truck, at the Rod and Gun, there's Hit the Bus Band, will be playing from 6 to 9, that's the name of the band. And Flippin' the Bird Barbecue will be there, and that's 5/18 Saturday night, from 6 to 9 at the Rod and Gun. Alright, the Pastel Paint Night is at the Hubbardston Library on 5/21. To my knowledge, it's a waiting list at this point. They've already filled all the slots, but just in case you wanna go, get on the waiting list. And that's from 5:30 to 7:30 on 5/21. The Memorial Day Parade is 5/27, step off is 11 a.m. All are encouraged to come. There's gonna be, lots of people marching, and they have, the small ceremony, well, it's not small, it's actually a good sized ceremony for a small town. Ceremony on the common afterwards, and then everyone can come over here, and the Friends, I believe, are putting on, an ice cream social.
You said 11 a.m.?
Yeah, 11 a.m. is step off.
Yep.
So that's when the parade starts, so if you're gonna get here before then, because they're gonna shut down the road. And that's on the 27th. On May 30th, the West African Drum Workshop will be at the Hubbardston Library from 6 to 7 p.m. That's the one I think you get to play the drums and stuff, they teach you how. So that one's like kind of a fun one. And then on June 5th, from 10 to noon, the seniors have a new thing where once a month they do cell phone help and laptop help. So if you're having issues with your cell phone and need some assistance, it's a different generation, so it's a lot of times hard. They have helpers to come down and kind of work you through it, and a lot of the helpers are seniors themselves, so but they've, know how to do it. So they'll help you like link your cell phone to your car, or if there's something screwing up your laptop or whatever, they're gonna try to help you work through that, and that's 10 to noon on, June 5th. And then on June 8th, we have the Hubbardston Fair from 9 to 2 with a rain date of June 9th. Then on, there's one more scholarship available. The library has a scholarship, but the deadline is June 30th, so you got some time. They're giving away 2 $500 scholarships. And then just for funsies, the seniors have a walking club if anyone wants to join. Every Tuesday and Thursday, 9 a.m., all are welcome. They meet here at the senior center and they go do their little laps wherever they go, wherever they decide to walk. But every Tuesday and Thursday, anybody that wants to go walking, the seniors have a walking club. 9:30. That's a lot of stuff.
Should we remind the people that we also have an election and a
Yes.
a town meeting?
I didn't even get to that because that's still next month. There was too much crap this month. I was like, oh. But yes, we do have election is on the first Tuesday, which is the 4th. And that will be what? We start at 7 usually.
7
Correct?
a.m.
Yeah,
Yeah.
7 a.m.?
Yeah.
For the, sorry, not the election, the town meetings
7
first.
p.m.
Yeah, town meetings first, 7 p.m. And then the election is the following Thursday, which would be, the following
11th.
Tuesday, which is the 11th. I can't even get my stuff right
Yeah.
anymore. And that's 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and now both of those will be in the gym. So Tuesday and Tuesday.
Okay.
And there was big green flyers that came home that were this full sheet of paper, obnoxious green. So if you, the hell was in your mail, everybody got them. I got mine.
I got mine.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional announcements or reports to be given by anyone? Okay, next item, consent agenda, I'll go over it with everyone, and then if there's any holds or any questions, feel free to. We have the minutes for the board meeting on March 18th, 2024, all of us were present. We have the minutes on the select board meeting for April 1st, 2024, Heather was absent from that meeting. We have, an appointment, Christina Jeffers as an assessors clerk for the assessor department, expires 6/30/2024. Wage authorization for the same, Christine Jeffers, clerk, assesses $19.06, wage, a new hire. And we also have a resignation that has to be added to it. Richard Clapham, position of laborer for DPW, effective May 2nd, 2024. And are there any questions or holds on any of those items?
Can we just hold the April 1st so you guys can vote those separate minutes?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yes.
On behalf of the town and on behalf of Director Brown, I'd like to thank Mr. Clapham for his 3+ years of service to the town at the DPW. I know he's going to remain involved in other capacities, but we wish him well in his future endeavors.
Thank you, Mr. Clapham, appreciate that. Okay, then, with the exception of the board meeting minutes on April 1st, could I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and second, are there any questions, any discussions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes, opposed, abstained, motion carries 4-0. We'll go to the April 1st, 2024 select board meeting, can we have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Motion made.
Second.
And second, okay, any discussions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Opposed, abstained,
Yes.
1, okay, motion carries. Okay, so that takes care of the consent agenda. Okay, under new business, the first thing we're gonna be tackling or talking about is the annual town meeting warrant final review. And we're trying to make up our minds the best way to go through this. Right now, if you guys have had a chance to become familiar with these,
So Nate
we could say, just if there's any question on anyone or any changes, state it, and if not, if everything seems okay, we'll pass this as one motion for all the articles.
Cause I think Nate went through all this at the last meeting on the video anyway.
I did, and the only difference here is slight numbers in the budgetary article and the complete removal of the accessory agricultural bylaw that was tabled at the past, meeting of the planning board.
Which we knew about from the last meeting, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what was the budgetary change, Nate?
I provided you a sheet.
Is that the green sheet?
It is the not
Please,
green
right here.
sheet.
Not green
Oh, it's the yellow sheet.
Might be under it.
Yellows.
I got it.
Okay.
Grabbed the wrong one. These are, so this is a summary of, comprehensive summary of what's changed since last time?
Yep.
Yes.
Darn it, you just missed me thanking you. By 1 minute.
Any questions on this?
Just reading.
So this is already reflected in the
Yes,
the
sir.
articles, right? Okay.
So Nate, the increase on town clerk supplies,
Mhm.
you have in the explanation, 3 to 4 elections are anticipated requiring adequate funding for supplies like ballots. Was another election added since last time, or we just think we underestimate the supplies?
We wonder, I think we're going to have to fix the clerk budget even further in the future. So I'm trying to fix it slightly right now. And supplies are a lot easier to sell than salaries and,
Well, at the end of the day, it's a bottom,
yeah,
branch of government
yeah.
budget, so like general government itself is voted,
Mhm.
public safety is
Yeah.
voted, so I think you're just trying to be transparent what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, been a little sneak peek, don't be surprised if the town clerk's budget ends up being a special town meeting warrant article.
Yeah.
Just cause with all the turnovers, it
Mhm.
wasn't, it did not adequately keep up.
No.
Besides the salary actually is adequate right now.
Any other questions?
Do we, okay, I guess I have one, Mr. Chairman, tree warden, outside tree services, $2,000 increase, provisions for emergency funding should be reviewed in case of an unforeseen event. We have reserve fund, do we really need that 2,000 here, wouldn't we be better
Well, we don't wanna take it from free cash, that's
with
for sure.
reserve? And just add more, if we think we need more money anywhere, put it in reserve, cause what happens if, we don't have an unforeseen tree event, then we have $2,000 hanging on something else broke.
There have been several unforeseen tree events as of late. One that I was able to cover from snow and ice since it was a result of a winter storm.
Mhm.
It was so much so a town tree that it had a, hey, we're gonna take this down town tree notice on it. So, and Eric would love to be able to do some trimming. Eric is the tree warden. Eric and Boris would love to do some trimming when appropriate and when dead. But right now, we cannot. We just go to people's houses, tell them, yep, dead as a doornail. You're gonna do anything about it? Nope. So we would hope to be able to do a little bit of something in the case of a severe emergency and not have to count on utility companies.
Right, so the 2,000 that's in the 5/2/24 attachment A budget you posted online, that reflects the 2,000?
Mhm.
It's not 2,000 added to that 2,000?
No, it's
Okay, so it's the
2,000.
first time it's showing up,
Yeah,
okay.
because a situation happened 2 weeks ago where on High Street, a town tree fell into the woman's yard and we had to hire outside help and it was not cheap. It was $850 to have a outside company come and chop up and move the tree out of this constituent's yard.
Okay, last question. There's only one more section on here, so.
And it's the section I don't wanna answer questions about.
Oh, beer got up.
Okay, well, here it goes. Alright, so offsets and overlay. So first question is, did we talk to the assessors about releasing their overlay?
We'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, and then the second question obviously is, you know, DOR requires us when we're doing, the tax recap. I believe it's a 5-year average of overlay, it has to meet that minimum number.
Mhm.
Are you able to still meet that minimum number from the past 5 years if you subtract 10,000 out of it?
I'm fairly certain, I'll have to get back to you, I
Okay.
did not take that into consideration, Kelly came back to me when we were looking for funding to balance the budget and said we haven't come within striking distance of the $60,000 in the last 5 years. Maybe even she didn't go back further than that, so,
Okay, you ready for one more question that you're gonna tell me you're gonna get back to me on?
sure.
Okay, do we currently know how many cases we currently have that are out there for the assessors?
At least 3, I'm aware of 3,
From just current year or past years included?
current year,
Okay,
and you can likely think of the 3.
I can,
Yeah,
but in past, so we don't know if they have like past ones that are kinda hanging out
I
there
don't believe they
waiting
do,
for
but I
the,
can get back,
okay,
get that answer to you.
okay, thank you.
Can you, elaborate a little more on the town clerk increase? You said you were a little concerned that it might be going higher in,
Because of elections, yes, over the last few years, as prices rose on everything, the town clerk, like with many other departments, has done more with less and more with less and more with less, and the woman who had the clerk position 2 clerks ago level funded the budget. Candace had a very hard time making it through the amount of elections that she had, and now I don't think we're gonna be able to do it next year. It's not gonna be a crazy amount of money, but I do think you're going to see some sort of allocation for the town clerk's office come later this year.
So you're basically concerned about an increase in the cost to run elections?
Yes, sir.
That's what's driving that? Okay.
So some towns, and I don't usually like it, but some towns separate out town clerk and elections into 2 separate line items or 2 separate departments for that purpose, because when you're cutting budgets, you cut the town clerk's budget, but you can't cut the elections, cause we're
Yeah.
legally required to hold them. So
Yeah.
we still have to pay for the memory cards, the ballots, the postage, the election workers.
And that's something me and the prior clerk were working on, and then when she left, I was just kinda like, alright, I'll figure this out
Another time.
another time with the future clerk.
Good, thank you.
Anything else? So, is there any other questions or holds on any of the articles that everyone's all set for that?
The
That we
article
could-
for the boiler, I've already heard from State Senator Durant that he is gonna put in the, what do you call it, the proposed earmark for us, the amendment, but we'll see.
Alright, then
I
could we,
wanna talk a little bit about Article 22,
Uh.
because you attached like a 25-page legalese document that I was struggling to get through, so I'm sure people in this room did get through it all, and, I mean, is it a straightforward thing, and does everything look?
The Article 22 is a very similar article to the battery energy storage systems article that came forward 2 years ago that passed at town meeting.
Right.
That article was then sent back from the Attorney General's office. What that entailed after that is, just in layman's terms, you can build a massive battery energy storage system anywhere in town right now. What this is creating zones so that you can only do so in certain parts of town. As it was presented by the planning board, I would suggest we listen to either Francois or Chris Monroe about this, cause I also had very little to do with this, cause it was mostly written when I got here, and now we're just trying to fix it so that you can't abuse it.
So is this something that it existed 2 years ago, and now we're amending it. Are we making the amendments to satisfy our personal wants and needs, or to satisfy the state's requirements, or why are we making the amendments?
This is, I believe, and please let me know if I'm wrong, what did you say a couple weeks ago? Don't let perfect get in the way of good?
Don't let best get in the way of
Yeah,
better.
that is another, this is another situation of that.
Okay.
Where 2 years ago was a bit more comprehensive, but at this time, at least if this were to pass and then be approved, you can't just go rogue with these battery energy storage systems if it were to get to that. And I can't speak to how this came up in the very beginning. I know certain towns are working on it, other towns have yet to get there.
Okay.
I'm aware that Francois is kind of the driver, but.
And does the planning board, are
Planning
they
board does
scheduled to
support
speak
this.
on the floor?
Yes.
Okay, good. Very good.
Anything else? Alright, then if we could get a motion to accept the Articles 1 through 22 as they are presented for the town meeting warrant.
Mr. Chair, the motion would be to recommend the
Recommend them?
passage of Articles 1 through 22 as presented. We're not accepting anything per se.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
I'll amend my,
Yeah.
my question. Okay, motion has been made and second. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carried. Okay. Okay, item B, the goals review. Nate, if you would please.
This is simply a letter to you guys. I want to be respectful and not talk about our employees completely on the record and break them down or anything, or give that sort of opportunity. The goals were set during the review sessions for the year. Everyone had a good review. There were good conversations across the board. I look forward to working with them all. We're going to be beginning with the Collins Center very soon to set up a 5-year training plan, both for the people that are in positions now and the positions as empty positions per se, that may start over, saying like, oh, what could this person do to get to where they need to be? So that'll be a great project to do, and I'm very happy with the goals and the ambitious goals that many of our employees have taken on, and I look forward to working with them.
Any questions for Nate on any of this?
No, I was just gonna comment that Nate, I think you did a nice job, finding the positive in all of the employees and really highlighting that for everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, item C, mascot domain name request. If you would.
So, HubbardstonMA.us is a weird website handle, but, and a lot of the municipalities and suggestions from the state and different cybersecurity entities are to transfer over to a .gov handle in the name of safety and for verification purposes. I am requesting to be able to go forward and request that. If I request it and it becomes a absolute cluster that is taking up more time than it's worth, I would pull back on that, but.
Yeah,
but
go right through.
it's something that a number of communities are doing. It's for cybersecurity. It's also a tighter handle when it comes to protection.
Is there a cost related to it?
No.
Okay, so it's just paperwork and
Yep, it's
Jeff
paperwork
signing off?
and bothering Jeff.
Is that domain name available?
If Hubbardston MA is, we'd have to look into if hubbardston.gov would be, but hubbardstonma.gov is.
Okay.
No
Okay.
hyphen.
I'm hoping for no hyphen.
Cause there's a Hubbardston, Michigan.
That's MI.
I know, that's what I'm saying, there's a Hubbardston, Michigan,
Yeah.
that's why I say it.
And they're smaller than us.
Yeah. the only thing I worry about is the email, trying to switch over all those emails that we have.
Is there a plan for that? Does,
I didn't wanna get too far into it with Paul until until I figured out that we were actually going to do it.
imagine they have some kind of forwarding.
He claims it's gonna be the easiest thing ever.
So was the
Yeah.
last one.
I think
But
it's,
yeah.
I think it's a really good idea, cybersecurity piece, the fact that people often mess up the hyphen
Mhm.
for the MA, you don't get the email that's supposed to come in the first place, they already have trouble spelling Hubbardston for some reason.
Well, it's difficult, it's got a lot of
Yeah.
letters.
So, and I think,
GBs, you know.
I think it makes it more secure, so.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that, I'm, like I said, I'm only concerned about the email debacle, which I feel it's coming, but there's nothing you can do about it, you're just gonna have to figure it out.
I'd also eventually like to firm up the emails, but that's for another day. Like, my favorite example is to remind people that our building commissioner's email is hubbuild with 3 B's. So it
What? Make
Yeah,
things difficult?
it gets,
I know.
it gets pretty messy, so that's something we'll look at. I understand why we don't do first initial last name, but
Mhm.
if there was a way to standardize that, like
Yes.
tax call is a kinda weird email for our assistant tax collector.
Yeah.
Trez for the treasurer collector,
Yeah,
like,
Yeah, we get a lot of, I don't know, what do you want? We're a little town, okay?
So-
Mr. Chairman, do you need a motion to that effect?
If the feeling of the board is, oh, yes, you want.
Alright, you wanna go for it, or you want me to go for it?
Go for it, Keith.
Alright, I would like to make a motion. Yeah, hold on. This one?
Yep.
I move to approve the request to pursue hubbardstonma.gov domain name.
Second.
Motion made and second, any questions, any discussion?
I would just say friendly amendment or some variation there too, because if Hubbardston MA is not
Yes.
available, we might have to,
Yeah, just in case
You
we.
accept
Or we could
Yes,
do
I
friendly
Hubbardston.
amendment? Okay,
Yeah.
so moved, all right.
You're next door, next door, yeah, keep going. Are you looking for,
Conservation?
yeah, conservation's over there,
Thank you.
we're select board.
And nobody said there were 2 rooms.
Okay, sorry, no,
No.
that's the bathroom.
this way, in the senior center,
There's a good meeting room, but.
unless you, yeah, let's go have a meeting in the bathroom. Tony,
On
Mike,
top
you-
of all that, we have a motion on the
Sorry.
table. So back to the motion,
To our
everyone,
tens
been
and
made
tens
and
of
second, no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, opposed, abstained, motion passed unanimously, okay.
Show you a fun ride. Alright.
Next item is the marijuana host community agreement. Before I ask Mr. Fitzgerald to say a few words, my understanding, and just to pass it along, is to remind everyone, the contract we presently have is still running for another year. So in terms of the presentations that we've had, in terms of the options, it does not beg that any action have to be taken at all, but that's entirely up to you guys. But just to do that as a start, so Attorney Fitzgerald, you've driven a long way, so thank you.
Been waiting patiently.
Here, you can come up.
So,
Attorney Fitzgerald represents Paper Crane. Foley and Mason.
Forward, yeah.
so, our position on this is that the existing agreement, may very likely not be acceptable to the Cannabis Control Commission when the renewal for their license goes in. Everyone after March 1 is required to have a compliant host community agreement. And there's a couple of reasons why the existing one is not on its face acceptable or in compliance with those regulations. So for instance, in the a couple of paragraphs in, it talks about 3% of gross sales, and the statute refers to up to 3%. And it requires a reasonable relationship to the actual expenses or the actual impact fees. And that's in the old statute, alright, so I don't know how that, I wasn't involved when that was done the first time. so that's one issue with it. The second issue that would be, a non-starter, has to do with the minimum, fee if the 3% is not reached, and it's, you know, if the sales are low and there's a minimum there of 150,000, okay? So, those two things. Now, there's a lot of talk about these things, and as I've mentioned before, I think the Cannabis Control Commission is in slight disarray with how they're approving things, but those are just two things where it's gonna be probably an automatic. On the three options, obviously the waiver is not something that we're chasing. You know, we wanna be good, you know, business citizens of Hubbardston. We wanna pay Hubbardston what the law says we should pay. And to the extent that we hope that we're getting the dispensary off the ground this year, hopefully that will produce more in the way of sales tax and more because of their social equity status to the town, the extra 1%. All of that hopefully will mean more. Now, we don't know when that happens, if there'll be impact fees, if there'll be a line down the street that requires a police officer or anything like that. So, at this point, obviously a waiver's out. There's a, you know, originally I was leaning towards suggesting that we just simply amend out those little provisions in the existing contract that will become objectionable. And I would be willing to do that and send it over to you if that's something you would like to ask me for. If you're going to say, well, we're just gonna keep it the same and not make any changes, then I think we'll be back in just a short while with the rejection. It's just about how long does it take and what happens if we get a rejection. You know, sales have to stop, all that has to happen. So there's a lot of, as I was talking earlier, to Jeff and to Nathan, there is a lot of litigation out there, and a lot of litigation over the fact that some people are claiming there's retroactivity in the statute. We're not agreeing with that litigation, because it's not in the statute. Their regulations, the very first issue of them, I think, talked about retroactivity in the fall, and then it all disappeared, all right? So, no, there's no retroactivity, but it doesn't change the fact that all of the fees, originally and now, were supposed to be reasonably related to the actual impact fees, all right? And that's not what this current agreement says. There's a template that they issued, the CCC issued, and I think it's available on their website. I don't know if they sent it to you.
We do have the template available, made available by the CCC.
And it just seems to me that that's a very plain, you may have some additions to it, but it's a very plain, I think, acceptable compromise, that it does spell out the fees, as I've mentioned, up to 3%. So I would ask you to just take a look at that. You know, the cases out there that I've talked about, people are seeking retroactive application, and, you know, they're not gonna win those cases, in my opinion. But all of the cities and towns that are on the other side of that lawsuit, they're expending money, and they're gonna end up having to show that all of their fees were reasonable and related to the actual impact fees, and a lot of them are not gonna be able to do that too. So it's just, you know, it's a big waste of money for everyone to go down go down that road. So I'll leave you with that, and that's my suggestion, that we go with the template. It's very simple, inexpensive, etc. Otherwise, we'll see you back.
Alright.
Yes,
Yeah,
I have a
go ahead.
question. You had mentioned that the renewal process now requires compliant host agreements. When is the renewal up for Paper Green?
Yeah, that was my first question too.
Yeah, I think it's up in June.
It's up in June?
Yeah, so
So when does, familiarize us with it if you could, what the process is for the renewal, right? So what point does he start putting in paperwork, and at what point, how long do they have before they approve?
It hasn't gone in yet because of the status of the existing host community agreement.
Yeah,
So it said, the regulations say anyone that gets submitted on March first or thereafter has to have a compliant host community agreement.
okay,
And that's why it hasn't been submitted yet. If we
Okay.
submit it and it gets rejected out of hand, then we have to start the process over with them.
so, a question, as far as the CCC goes, as far as the CCC goes, what is their review process? So like, the moment you submit it, you're good, the day before it expires, you're good, it has to be in 30 days in hand. I'm just looking at what your deadline is to get the application in to make sure that the renewal happens.
It needs to go in like immediately, alright? So in the
But do they have a timeline? Like, is there a specific timeline outlined in the regulations as to what the review period is? I'm not as familiar with the regs, so I'd have to look them up myself.
Right, I wanna say it was like 60 days or something like that. And
Okay.
it's the end of June, so we're gonna be late with it. So all that means is you don't get on the public notice, the meeting notice. So there's not a meeting where everyone goes to talk. It's simply a posting, and it has to be posted a certain number of days. So there will be a gap, sure, that it's just about how long the gap is gonna be. Now, in the past, when, last year, the year before, we could get a single piece of paper indicating that the town has given a host community agreement, has entered into one with the group, and that's all they reviewed. But this year, they have to, all new applications for new and for renewal have to have the host community agreement so that they can review it. They wanna cut this off, this problem that has created litigation and other things, at the CCC. What they should have done at the outset, but they didn't do it.
So this renews every year?
Yep,
So last year, when did it get submitted to the CCC?
I'm not sure of the exact date, but I'm sure it was earlier.
I'm uncertain if it's correct that it renews every year, because the last paper that was signed on behalf of the town for a CCC renewal was signed by former Chair Gallant.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, forgive me for not knowing that.
So it's every couple of years or so.
I
I'm not
also
familiar
can't
with the
speak
regs.
to exactly when, but the last time we did it, it was signed by a gentleman that hasn't been here in at least 2 years.
Okay, so really I came tonight to try to avoid the gap, you know, that, and to hope that, rather than simply let the existing contract go in the way it is, and then get bounced back to us, and we'd have to come back to you and ask again for a change. That-
Are you aware right now of any, of the renewals that have gone into the CCC that have bounced back because of the, failure to comply with their regs on the HCA?
No, they don't, I haven't seen anything, I've been watching the site, it doesn't say they rejected it, just give it back to people and say, you've gotta get a compliant host community agreement. So, alright,
Anyone else have any other questions for Attorney Sherwood? All right, thank you very much.
alright, thank you very much, thank you for listening.
Safe drive home to Medford.
Oh, thanks,
No traffic, you're good.
It's good going that way. Alright.
Is there any feeling that we can do anything on this tonight, or if not, we can,
What does our attorney say?
well, you,
Our attorney gave us
three
the
options.
Yeah, I
gave us the
know.
option.
Is there one
She
that,
recommended waiting further, it says
Yeah.
right at the
That's-
bottom of the thing.
just let it sit and
But do
marinate?
we get
But what is the,
into,
go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, do we get into a legal bind in the event that, you know, the date of the renewal is due, has come, has gone, the HCA doesn't comply, and they
Right.
have to stop
Right.
sales and stop
That's what I
everything else,
worry
and
about,
then
that we're hindering them.
we're getting hit with a suit for damages and,
Yeah. That, that's my one concern, that we get nailed because we dawdled.
Which provisions are the ones that are problematic, the percentage
It's
and?
all has to do, it's
money.
the percentage and the community impact fee.
Okay.
Everything else is going to be A-okay.
So if it's not retro and everything is okay with it as it is theoretically right now, cause it doesn't go backwards, they still haven't paid us a dime.
No, we don't, and it doesn't appear that we
We will,
we will.
yeah, the odds of us.
So we're never actually gonna collect for the first agreement, that's currently the one that's enforced.
Yep.
But the new regulations aren't retro, we just have someone who didn't pay for the current status of where we're at.
Because, and I can only speak to them slightly by what I know, by the time they were making enough money to pay a community impact fee of any substance, this was already cooking in the legislature. Cause they weren't one of the first people that came out and had no idea about pending legislation, were going based off of what they were originally, their original handshake agreement was.
And the other thing too is the CCC is all like total shit show, so it's, who knows what they're gonna come back with next, or change next, or,
But again, what was Carolyn recommending?
This is not Carolyn, the attorney that
No.
does the marijuana in the HCA
Mhm.
issues for KP Law is a woman named, I'm gonna butcher her last name, Nicole Costanzo. She is the municipal marijuana attorney. She does some classes with the MMA. She speaks at conferences and such. So she seems to be very knowledgeable in the case. As you've read, she doesn't necessarily push hard in any way. There, if I'm picking up correctly, there is some alluding to, hey, maybe you hold back. I'm also hesitant to believe that the slap on the hand is going to go to the marijuana company and not us.
yeah, dragging our feet as well. Ugh. Cause yeah, if it was like so simple, I'd wait it out, but this isn't that simple.
No, it is not.
So if we renegotiated the terms at least that are out of compliance, right, the ones that I think have financial impact, to terms that are actually in compliance, would that put us in a better position to actually collect money, say like now, as opposed to continuing on for the next few years and still not collecting
We
it?
can collect money now, and one of the companies is willing to pay whatever we invoice them for within reason. But line item wise, there's not a ton we can invoice for.
Yeah, cause they don't have a store yet. You know, there's been so many different there's not a lot of problems other than the
What
smell
about
a couple years
the
ago. but-
administrative cost of the administrative person for planning board and for board of health and the
That's
quantity
really
of
all
time
I-
and hours?
That's really all I could come up with, and we didn't have a log of hours. Like, I could really say like, oh, you got 20 of my hours and 30 of Ryan McLean's before, and how far
Yeah.
back can you go, and
That's the only problem, if it wasn't itemized out at the time, it's gonna be hard to retro and prove it.
It seems that if you were to weigh the amount of gains we were going to get on this against the losses or the frustrations, there's more losses and frustrations we're gonna be facing than we're gonna get just to go along with it. I mean, obviously, we're not gonna get anything, so, other than possible headaches and this and that and bad PR and, so, how does the board feel? Is there anything you wanna take as far as action tonight, or do you wanna put this on agenda for, what did he say what the deadline was? June?
Well, he needs,
They
according
haven't
to
sent
him.
Well, he wanted it right away,
Yeah, he
yeah.
wants it right away, so that way they can send theirs in and get on the waiting list.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they didn't really say waiting
Yeah,
right? Like,
well, cause it has to be published, so in other words, it's probably like, when you do something like with the planning board and whatever, it's gotta go out wherever and. So.
Well, help me understand why we haven't gotten any revenue from this whole
Because the state
cannabis
changed,
progress yet.
the state changed the whole law in the middle of the game, and we came in kind of late in the game. So they got established, the new law took effect, and before we ever got a payoff.
Yeah.
So it's at,
And we
it's-
don't get anything retroactively.
no,
That's undetermined, cause that's what another, one of the options in what Nicole's point was later in her note, was that it potentially could be retroactive, but that would require waiting and would require potential litigation, both on our behalf and for other communities that
so
are.
wasn't he just referring to that too?
Yeah.
In terms of saying
But-
basically no one is got,
Well, but
But
that's the
that's
lawyer,
his side.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
his side,
That's
he's
their
fighting
attorney.
his side.
That's their attorney.
Yeah, like,
yeah,
and an attorney that we pay to represent us is stating that there is a chance that there can be retroactivity.
But the reality is how much will it cost us to get how much back?
At this moment in
And
time,
possibly
nothing.
nothing.
Later down the road, it could likely be.
be costly and we would get no return at all.
It could be,
Could be
be
costly in what way?
for lawyer fees and
Litigating it,
litigation,
yeah.
Litigating it.
would there be a possibility where we could negotiate with them in a revised HCA and say, okay, well, we'll reduce whatever you're gonna pay us, which we'll have to figure that out, but by the way, since you paid us nothing the last 3 years, you are signing in to say you're gonna pay the last 2 years, it's way less than you would have paid in the first place, just cough it up.
My gut says no.
Yeah, but
One might
I-
go for it, but the other one.
But I would
yeah,
say,
right.
I
Yeah.
don't know, because at this point, now mind you, they're gonna watch this video, so they're gonna hear everything I'm saying,
obviously.
but,
Yeah.
but to their point, you know, they have a timeline they're trying to meet as well. So, you know, if we give a little and say, hey, we know you need a compliant HCA, and we're under no obligation to do it, we can just say, no, we're gonna hang on what we have. You want that, well, we want something, so let's
They're
come
gonna
up with
tell-
a formula and multiply
They're gonna
times
tell us
3.
to send them a line item invoice.
Yeah.
And we've spent some time working on what that would look like and have come to no substantial win.
He meant,
Especially year over year.
We're not-
Like,
we're
could I
not-
put something together
We're
once?
not holding a winning hand.
No, I don't think we
Apparently
are
not.
either.
In any way, shape or manner, we are not holding a winning hand.
This is crap too, because that's how these businesses got in, was
Right.
holding a winning hand.
Right,
And that's what makes a lot of people upset, but at the same time, there's still a business in town.
Yeah.
And
well, we were upset too, because
Yeah, I
I
know.
mean, the whole purpose of recommending it and then having the town voted for it was that we were looking at possible revenue, significant
desperately
revenue,
need.
I mean, so,
so did he mentioned having a retail store, right?
Yes.
So we've already preliminarily approved that?
More than preliminary.
Okay,
He
so-
he has a retail HCA.
Okay, do we have the local marijuana, local tax option?
Yep.
We've already approved that.
And that's legal,
Okay.
and there would be a increase of 1% on one of them in that case because of their status as a social equity company.
I'm sorry, come again?
What? That was
We mean increase 1%, so based on the normal amount we would get from them for the local option
For one of
tax.
the companies, there would be even 1% on top of that because of their status as a social equity company.
that they would pay extra to
Yes.
us? Okay, so they would have to pay 1% more.
Because
Okay.
of their status as a
Alright.
social equity company, which means minorities
Yeah.
and people that have been through challenging situations.
Yes.
So the local option's 3%,
Yep.
right? So they would be paying 4%
Potentially one of them.
on sales and the other would pay 3% if they both had the
If they
retail.
both had retail, which wouldn't exactly make sense to have like McDonald's and Burger King retail joint establishments across
Yeah,
the
that'd
street
be
from each
stupid.
other.
McDonald's and
Yeah,
Burger
that
King
always
always
happens.
do.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
know,
know.
it always does.
CVS and Walgreens does it too.
Yeah.
It'd be more like McDonald's at McDonald's, although they do it with Dunkin' Donuts. Cause a Dunkin's here and then there's a mini Dunkin's here. Hell, that's the only place that does that.
So what's the feeling of the board?
You can even table it and think about it. I don't think tabling it till the 20th hurts anybody at all.
Alright, can we get
That's
a little better answer from our lawyer, like, with some direction that they think is the best way, other than they never.
Have you met lawyers?
Well,
Yeah.
Carolyn usually comes out and just says it, you know,
Yeah.
that's why I like her.
So what's the liability if we do nothing, right? Like if we get to, I guess that's a question, right? We get to the point, they come, their due dates due, they submit their application, they have the old HCA, it's non-compliant. Are we in trouble in any which way that we're gonna be on the hook for?
Well, I would think they would fight it.
Yeah, if
They-
Well, but he also couldn't seem to answer the question, and, okay, other
Of how
towns who've
long.
submitted this, right? And they've
Yeah.
had an original HCA that hasn't been
Well,
amended.
Plus, he was only
heard lawyer
representing
talk.
Bowie. He was
Yeah, I
Not-
heard lawyer talk.
not him, so, yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't actually answer the question,
Exactly, lawyer
right?
talk.
Like maybe he legit doesn't know, or maybe he just
He-
doesn't
he
wanna
could-
say he doesn't know, but
Yeah, he could not know the actual dates and things, so.
So what Nicole said is the CCC first started reviewing HCA's on March 1st and has 90 days to issue a determination on where a HCA received is non-compliant. We are not aware of any determinations that have been issued by the CCC to date. However, such determination by the CCC could, in my opinion, be challenged through a certiorari action under such theory. So she's saying that even if we got a letter saying, hey, you have a non-compliant HCA, it could be rectified by doing any of these options then, or be challenged, which would have a cost associated with litigation.
so here's the follow-up question to her on that would be, okay, so we tell them we're not making any changes until we hear back from what the new state of the law and everything else is. They go to file the renewal. What happens if the renewal bounces because our HCA is not compliant with the CCC?
These are questions you wanna ask her.
Well, I don't wanna ask, but I want Nate to ask.
Yeah.
Cause I think that's, at least for me, right, that's where it stands. If the answer is, you know, we think we're fine and they're willing to back that and they've seen other towns where it's essentially fine,
Yeah.
then I have no objections to waiting and seeing as more information comes about. And going from there.
Is it realistic to anticipate we could get these answers for May 20th meeting?
I would hope. They're usually pretty quick at getting back.
What's the impact to the businesses? If the agreement is deemed non-compliant, do they have to cease operations?
Well, you can ask that too.
And if they do, have to, there's gonna be follow-up questions, if they do have to cease, or they get bounced, can we fix this? They don't have to like redo a whole new application, can they just resubmit a, kind of thing?
He also didn't, he
Well, he
mentioned.
only spoke about two amendments that they were looking to make to make it compliant, right?
150 and the 3%, yeah. But didn't he also state that, to your question, Chris, that the businesses have to have an active, accepted, community
HCA.
agreement?
To sell, but if he's not selling
But-
currently because it's still growing.
Yeah, but I mean, if we held off.
But they have an active HCA,
was-
if it becomes,
They have a contract with us for another year, right, anyway?
if it becomes if it's deemed non-compliant, does that deactivate that current HCA, or can it run parallel?
From what I was told the other day on the phone call for this, the non-compliance would push us to then bring it into compliance. It does not seem, from at least my conversation with her, which I will reiterate and do my best to get a straightforward answer,
Yeah, good luck.
that they would have any issues at all outside of, hey, your town doesn't have a compliant HCA with you, go make that happen.
Right. So can those two work streams run in parallel?
Yeah.
We try to make that HCA compliant while not impacting their business or shutting them down or causing them any unnecessary hardships.
I'm guessing legal's resistance to saying just go ahead and amend is they wanna see how everything plays out, because if we jump on the wagon too soon and we make an amendment, and then let's say some more favorable terms come out later, we put ourselves at a disadvantage. But I hear what you're saying,
If
Keith,
more
like, we don't
favorable
wanna
terms,
put,
if more favorable terms come out later, why can't we make another amendment?
well, they're asking us to make an amendment cause it benefits them, I don't think they're gonna be as willing to make an amendment that benefits us.
Right.
Yeah.
If
But
we're
then
in-
again,
if
it
we're in
would-
business together, you know.
But this, if we made the amendment to this, it would expire at the end, so we could,
At the end of what?
At the
next
end
3
of-
years?
Yeah.
no,
next year.
cause
Oh.
this would be, we're just making an amendment, so it'd go for the end of the year. So, but that's if it's gonna totally monkey wrench their business, you know, I'd rather, if at all possible, sit on it and wait to see what the CCC is, but I don't wanna hamstring their business either.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Definitely do not wanna.
Well, why don't we put this off until the next meeting then? And see what answers we
You know,
get to
I
these
like to
questions.
think of it as a symbiotic relationship, you know, I think we're both operating in good faith here. You know, I don't think they're trying to screw us, I don't think we're trying to screw them, I think it's just a situation where the laws are changing on the fly and we're trying everything we can to be compliant with them while simultaneously allowing them to run their business as it needs to be run. You know, it's just something we gotta work through and do as least damage as we can to both parties.
But we're not equal partners either in this,
Yeah, but we
cause
can't.
we're not getting.
But no, I agree with Chris, we
Yeah.
need to work together, but we gotta get some answers, I think, first.
Yeah,
and
right.
Hopefully
I
we
think
get
we
it.
need more clarity on, you know, what the impact is to us and what the impact is to the businesses and.
And Nate, if you can also just communicate, I'm sure you already will, but just the attorney, just let him know, you know, we're waiting for some more guidance from legal and we're hoping to take this up at our next meeting. So he doesn't think we're blowing him off.
Okay, so,
And the two sticking points are $150,000 and the 3%.
3%,
Yep.
yeah, it's all money.
Right. Usually is.
Yeah.
Yeah. When in doubt.
so we will put this off till May 20th then, correct?
If anyone has any questions in the next couple days, it usually takes them a couple days to circle back, so I can send more than one email if
Sure.
anyone comes up
Yep.
with more.
Okay,
Hopefully, Peter will be here too, so that way we have a full board to make this decision as well.
okay, enough on that. Then let's move to the item E, proposal for finance and HR system upgrades, if you would, Nate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With this being funded internally, I don't technically believe we needed to come forward and request approval, but in a effort to be completely transparent, especially regarding changes with both the staff, the constituents, and you all as a board, we wanted to come forward. This request is to allow us being Mary and I, on behalf of the town, to move forward, working with Harper's to initiate a onboarding system, a time and accrual, and a time and accrual system. And both of these would help a lot, both with our ability to maintain correct numbers I could not tell you if at any point in the last couple of years, through several treasurers, several town administrators, if we've kept accruals straight year after year after year after year. And this would help a lot with that. It would aid in the ability to do payroll a lot faster. And as I've told several of the employees time and time again, none of these efficiencies are going for anyone's job. These are to create the ability to do more. Like if a employee no longer does the back end of payroll, we'll find something else for them to do. This is looking to do more with less, not to take anything away from anybody. So it's standard best practice across the board, both in municipalities and in the private sector. If you have any questions, I can answer them now. We've been looking into this since about Halloween.
So I have a question, so the the time software, right? Have we checked this through PD to make sure that they're able to keep their records in that, or we would exclude certain departments?
We wouldn't roll out PD at first. This would just roll out with
Okay.
non-union at first.
Okay, would it
And then
ever,
we would go.
would it even
if-
be compatible? Do they use IMC now?
Yeah, that's what we're
Okay.
waiting on. We're waiting on an answer to if IMC is compatible and if IMC is going to be the way they're going in the future, because there are potential changes.
Okay, and what are we looking at for the cost here? Cause like section 1, it says software, it's calculating $3.50 per active employee per month,
$3.50 as in.
$3.50 per active employee per month.
Yeah, open this
Where'd you come up with that?
at the bottom.
In the sheet.
Oh, on that, huh?
About this 1/8 of an inch right there.
Yeah.
It would be less than the amount of time it's taking 2 employees to work for half a day.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
that's, you know, my,
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw it back to you, is the juice worth the squeeze here? I mean, is this a better deal for us, are we gonna?
Choose worth the squeeze.
That's the way we're seeing it at this time, that the ROI would be almost instantaneous just because of the amount of time that would be saved
Yeah.
by transferring a half a day's worth of work to a system.
Okay.
It will also, I plan on staying for some time, but you also can never stop department head turnover, employee turnover. It creates a system that runs itself a little better than, hey, we have this form, don't forget to turn in the form. Then the treasurer and the treasurer collector have to do almost a full day's work, then scan it over to the town accountant. It just creates a seamless workflow that goes through approvals and immediately out into the system, done.
So it more automates the process.
Yes, sir.
Does it store data?
Yep.
Historical data,
Yep.
all included in that
All
$3.50
included
per?
in that. Yep. It would keep our accruals up to date within the, forget what they call it, there's a whole system attached to Harper's, like everything, like an ADP, like everyone has in the private sector at work. It would be very, very similar to that.
Okay, so
So what's the downfall to it?
Change,
Change is inevitable.
yeah, but I personally don't see a downfall at this time. The implementation is the only downfall that I could potentially see, because it took us 6 months to get here. They like,
Jesus.
they weren't, but other than that, once implemented, I see nothing but positives in moving forward with this type of structure, and the money's already within the budget.
And the cost is a wash because it's gonna free up
Yep.
resources to do other things with the time save.
Yes, sir.
And what are you looking to do with your, letter E proposal here?
Well, if we are approving this or not approving, we would make the appropriate motion for that.
Can I
For,
send,
for you to start the process of implementing this, or
To
for you
approve-
to
yeah, if-
investigate it further to see?
We
if
would
it
start
works?
the process of implementing this.
okay, question, so you see here time clocks, is that the?
We are not doing time
Okay,
clocks.
that's just they just,
Yeah,
you threw it in the
they
paper, okay.
put those out there, we are not doing time clocks,
Okay.
we did not feel it would be the most appropriate for the type of environment that is run here. It would be almost exactly the same as what people are doing now on their timesheets, except for you log in and do it there. It will be significantly easier for employees to request vacations. Right now, we're doing it through a Google form, and it's not the easiest or funnest for me, because I have to go in and sometimes you miss one, cause you just do in Google Forms.
Okay.
And so it would automate a lot.
I'm a little surprised to hear what you're saying, sounds like we're manually doing requests for vacation,
Yep.
and we're
Yeah, we're-
manually logging time
Accruals.
on sheets?
Yep. Possibly mismanagement of accrual time, like, and I can speak for.
And this does away with all that?
Yeah,
Because if,
I
first
guess
of all.
I didn't realize we were
and I can speak
doing
to
so much
what
manual
me
legwork.
and Mary have done, but I cannot speak to what happened before that, or, and when there were changes in hours, it's just, this is by far our best practice. The way we're doing it is just old school.
Prehistoric.
And
Alright, so you're looking for a motion, are ya?
I think
To
it saves
approve or
it saves the town
approve.
money almost immediately through ensuring that we're using appropriate time from employees.
Right here. I would like to make a motion, to approve the proposal for phased finance and HR system upgrades as presented.
Second,
Motion made, second. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes, opposed, motion carried unanimously, okay. Do we have anything under old business?
I just have one question, so with the ARPA funds that we had granted out to the businesses, did we ever get any, word back from the businesses if they used those funds, or have we followed up with any of them to make sure? Cause they mostly said thank you for the check, but upon our acknowledgement that they cashed the check, have we been able, or can we follow up and make sure that they've done what they said they were gonna do to a certain extent?
I've spoken to Giacomo's, I know that they did their heat pumps. But outside of that, there's no
Plainview
regulatory.
did put in their whole second room of their store,
Okay.
so I know they did.
Here for you, I think we just gave money
Yeah,
for lost revenues.
yeah. And we had the diner, but that's now a new owner. So,
But did they do the upgrade before it became a new
I don't
owner?
think it was it up,
I thought it was a
maybe
kitchen
it was
upgrade of
some
sorts.
upgrade and then some lost revenue. So I'm not sure.
The kitchen has been upgraded, I can tell you that much,
Okay.
extensively, because everything's going.
Yeah, but that's Wanda. That's not, Julie was the one that got the checks from ARPA, and that was previous.
Okay.
So I'm not saying
But
whether
she
she
would
did or
not- yeah,
didn't,
she
yeah,
did,
I
yeah.
don't know, yeah.
I can certainly, am I still there, yes I
No, you're correct.
I mean, they're
Wanda's
not,
allowed to,
Yes,
but
Wanda has, yeah.
Julie did do.
They're not obligated to
They're not.
tell us what they did with that, right?
Well, no, but if they ask for the money for a specific purpose, it's nice to find that they used it for the purpose in which they requested it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about
Agreed.
Kelly with the trailers either.
Okay.
I haven't talked to her about that.
Okay.
What's happening?
I don't talk, yeah, I don't ask people
We're getting
if they
kicked out of Google Meet.
Oh,
spend money or not.
Okay. That's all I had.
What
Yeah.
happened?
any other old business?
No, it hadn't heard anything other than our one thing, so it was asking if
Oh.
they were still in the call.
Oh,
Okay, no other old business, okay. Nate, media report,
Absolutely. On April 22nd, moderator Renee Lafayette came down and swore in the new town clerk. It was a nice little moment. I took a picture and posted it on the website and the town Facebook page. On May 15th, I will be having a annual town meeting review and public hearing based on seniors and their questions. I guess it's right before their strawberry shortcake party. I did not know about, but I am excited about now. So that
It's just
is
kinda
something I'm
cozy on over.
hoping to be able to do each time, just cause I want to make sure that we're communicating with not just the Facebook generation, but with anybody that wants to communicate with the town. I had a very special episode of Hubbardston Headlines. Our guest this month was Chair Jeff Williams. So that was a
Big guns.
yeah,
What?
Said the big guns.
it was a nice episode. We talked about the last decade and how other members of the community can get involved. Check it out. At your next meeting on 5/20, in addition to the students that are receiving the Country Hen Scholarship and a public tree hearing, the library trustees will be stopping by to discuss their strategic plan and the work they've been doing on that. We recently held a, what we refer to as Painting with Paul event. We painted, where are they? We painted these.
Oh, what the hell? I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, so we had a gentleman named Paul come in and
Those are super cute.
for $2 each, he teaches us how to paint these. Last time we did snowmen, and this time we did, I think those are tulips. And
Yes, I know.
he was a very nice guy. He gave everybody a door prize. I think this is the last one because he's going to be moving away somewhere. But I would like to thank Tony, Bobby, and Mary for putting that together. In addition to that, we're doing a May step competition. The treasurer collector is currently kicking everyone's butt, but like 70,000 steps to 30,000 steps, but it is what it is, so we'll see at the end of the month how that goes. A few weeks ago, we were a spotlight for the Chamber of Commerce. They came down, met with Katie and I, had a nice conversation for the better part of an hour, talked about working together in the future, and then they did a spotlight on us for their 30 members in 30 days campaign that they're doing. It was nice to see them, and it's great to get involved, so that was fun. The senior deck project is finally gonna get off the ground. We met with Rob Daypre, or however you thought.
Yeah, no, Dupree.
Dupree.
We met with him, and he's getting the bond right now. It should be started by August 1st. He's hoping to be done by September 1st. Director Brown and I went out and walked the town center project with MassDOT. They are beginning to finalize their project. Travis was a absolute machine with getting them to turn the mailboxes. So they're gonna be turning the mailboxes the other way. He gave them really no option other than presenting straight facts, and then you watched the entire group of grown men go, alright.
Good.
So those will be turning in the next couple weeks.
Explain that to me, what, turning mailboxes, I don't get it.
The mailboxes are facing in such a way that he can't get the plow machine by them. And in the original picture, they were facing this way on the street, so imagine.
Parallel to the street?
Yeah,
Yeah. The one across from the rec field is that way.
and then it turns, and these ones on Main Street are all
Perpendicular.
Yeah.
perpendicular to the street.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a discussion at the time, because that was changed that way.
And the
For
reason
the
they
mail
said they did
delivery.
it was because of the postmaster.
Right.
But Travis
Exactly.
went and said, oh, postmaster, why did you say this? And the postmaster said, I didn't. So we went back and talked to them, and they're going to be putting it the way it was in the imagery.
Mm-hmm.
Did we ever figure out why?
What's involved in doing that?
That I don't know.
Well, some of them are
That'll be
cast
up-
in some
that'll be
Aren't we
up-
so
just
they're
twisting
gonna have to.
mailboxes 90 degrees?
That would be my idea of what would be the easy side. The hard side would be having to take out those concrete poles. But
Well, some of them are already snapped because
Yeah.
they were the wrong way. Or, well, one got hit by a car.
and
Kitty,
stay on the road.
It was not me, trust me, I'm not running my car off the road.
they've agreed to clean up the front where they left a bunch of metal and rock messes, and if anyone has any additional issues with the project between now and
I do have a question that was asked to you
Okay.
somewhere.
Before we move on,
The
can I
sidewalk.
just,
Oh.
this mailbox thing, who's twisting
It's
them?
still on the mailbox.
Mascot,
At whose
Massachusetts.
expense?
Amarillo,
At their own expense.
at their own expense.
Got it.
Why did the sidewalk stop and not go all the way down to Brigham?
Let me get you that in.
Oh, you were supposed to get that answer, somebody asked you at one of the other meetings.
There's been a lot
I
of
know.
questions. Yeah,
I was
and
hoping
we
to
talked
have
to
an
them,
answer, cause I was like, why does it stop right here? It doesn't make any sense. Why doesn't it go in front of the common? Not that it has to or anything, but it's just very odd the way it stops right there. It goes like 3 feet in and then stops.
they're working on, there's a few spots where sand is pooling.
Yeah.
And they're working on those, they put up the cherry trees, we're gonna be going out at least one, if not two more times, so if anyone sees anything, please let me know.
How about, kinda related, but kinda not, lamp posts, light posts, is that not?
Light post,
Is that the,
especially,
non-starter?
it's not part of this right now, it's on our capital improvement plan.
Okay.
And we have the conduit in ground.
Oh, we do?
Yep.
For limited.
Yeah,
For
right over
limited.
here, that's it. There's like literally in front of the school and the library, like that's it.
Which would be a nice start.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I just, when people hear it, they're gonna freak out and think that it's going all the way down the street. It is not. It is
Yeah.
limited
Nope,
to
just
right
this
there.
one
and this-
part.
Yeah,
Yeah. and-
Limited because there were,
it was too much.
So how many posts, how many posts are we talking about?
Like 3.
Like,
Yeah, that's what I mean, like, maybe 4.
$50,000 at the time in 2021 prices,
for 3 or for each?
for however many. I did not look at them because I knew they were not part of the project, and I also know the price of dark sky compliant streetlights.
Okay.
and in the project in its days of developing, et cetera, I mean, the question did come up at one point to, for streetlights, et cetera. But it was determined, number one, the cost, and two, the objection of the feedback the committee was getting from downtown people, they didn't
yes.
want anything
Yeah.
brighter,
Yeah.
well, than it
I
is,
drive through,
so,
East Princeton.
yeah, exactly, I drive through Princeton and they got them and it looks pretty nice, but,
oh yeah,
I
it does.
think it
But,
looks, yeah.
you know,
When you have the old school, but they shine down, like, you know what I mean? It just looks
yeah, they
so
look,
quaint.
they look,
It looks so quaint.
retro, but I
Yeah.
don't know if it's that much money, maybe even more today, you're saying.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
It's
not.
certainly,
That's what- that's
it's
why-
certainly something I'd like to move forward on,
Yeah.
but just putting in the conduit in the short part of downtown that we did was almost $50,000. So,
Yeah, I think it was
Alright,
like,
just-
originally it was like 2 mil or something
thinking
like
about
that
it.
for the whole, just for the conduit.
And in the long run, it would have been cheaper if it have it put in while,
Yeah, when it was done,
while
yeah,
all of
now
the digging
it's-
was happening.
Yeah, now it's like,
But since
yeah.
they didn't realistically think that it would ever pass,
Mhm.
they didn't wanna
alright,
push for that.
Chris Barbera and I went out on a tour with the interested parties in the Library Foundation RFP project today, which would be pointing and fixing the front part of the library because it is kind of falling out due to water. One company showed up. They were very nice. It's one more than I anticipated, to be quite honest. And
You gotta fix the foundation.
I was very shocked that only one, because I sent the email to approximately 6,000 different email addresses.
Really?
Because on Combis you can just click several buttons and it goes.
It wasn't big enough a job, huh?
Probably not.
It never really is.
Yeah.
We began union negotiations with the DPW. We're meeting again next week. I've been working with Kelly quite heavily on that FEMA public assistance issue that I've told you about a couple times. We have gotten the amount of non-approval from 140,000 down to 90. We're not anticipating a ton more ability. If people don't remember, this was all caused by different work during COVID that was expected to be covered by the FEMA Public Assistance Program that is now being denied. We have no more appeal options after this current round, so I should have a decently unpleasant update soon.
So has that money already been paid?
Yeah, we're in the red on it.
Okay, so that's gotta come from somewhere.
Yeah, and then DLS was talking with Kelly about how they could potentially give us 3 to 4 years to pay it off.
How much is it, did you say?
Right now, about 90,000, maybe a little bit less. I went 90 to sound better when I come back at 75.
That's still, that's
So-
a police car. That is a police car right
Yeah.
there.
And it was, cannot point blame, cause
No, it's-
at the time, they were told that these activities
Point blame at FEMA, that's what
were
point blame.
going to be approved. Like it was,
Their
I'm sure Heather remembers directly, she was in the game as well, it was, let's do it, it's all approved, it's gonna get funded.
Oh, wait a minute, let's just pull the rug out from underneath you.
Once again.
I know. How can the little towns get screwed? Hold on, let's get the feds involved.
I'm currently doing some
Sorry.
investigation into police vehicle remediation as the chief's trunk was leaking tremendously. He lost about $1,500 in clothing and gear. He's already been paid back for that. He was able to get it from his own lines. It did not hit a point to be able to go through insurance, but we're working on that. The gentleman came yesterday and met with Tony and the chief, talking about how he did not want to remediate the vehicle until it was fixed. Neil, the town mechanic, is now working with the chief. He told him to get some
Stripping.
sealant
Oh.
and that he would do it for him.
What caused the leak, do they know?
What is going on?
Wait a minute.
Wait.
This brand new truck we just bought?
No, this is the chief,
The Impala
yeah, the chief's
that
car.
Ryan drives.
And it's leaking where? In the trunk?
In the trunk. He said he went in there and there was about an inch or more of water.
My car is riding funny. It's got a pool in the back. Oh jeez.
Oh, that's the way he always
What is
travels
that?
around with water in case of emergency.
What is that, the hot tub on wheels or, no, something like that?
Hot tub time machine?
Yeah, there you go.
I attended the MMHR spring meeting where we talked about a number of HR principles. It was comforting to see that everyone else was talking about changes and just the way to move forward with varying personalities, so that was a good afternoon. Grants, we have submitted for the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant to review all town culverts for climate resistancy. We have also received 5 expressions of interest for the Community One Stop program. I'm gonna be working on that with Chair Monroe and Patricia for the next couple weeks, hoping to get them in by the end of June. And that is all I have for this evening.
Okay.
Good job.
Any other questions about that? Okay. Policies, I'm assuming we don't have any?
Nothing this evening.
Okay.
No.
Matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. Does anyone have anything?
Yes. So I'm hung up on this open water swimming at Comet Pond. In particular, the town
town's liability should catastrophe happen out there. So I've asked Nate to get with legal,
And I did.
and he reached out to them, and we're awaiting a response to find out, you know, what our culpability is in the event of tragedy happening. And I know the whole thing is water under the bridge, and I know there's really not anything we can do about it, but, you know, I'd like something on the record somewhere that says, if we're in the hook for something terrible, God forbid ever happens, that we, you know, as a
So,
board are opposed to something like that.
so the pond is town property?
No,
No.
state.
Oh, it's state
Not
property.
state
Yep.
So there's a law in Massachusetts called the recreational use statute, right? Recreational use statute, so if you're allowed to go on someone's property, town property, state property, parks, someone's private property, whatever, right? You're going on for recreational purposes, you're not charged to go onto that property, and you were injured, unless it is gross and wanton misconduct, so essentially you shaved off a pipe and left it there and pointed it at somebody, you're not gonna be negligent and held liable. They can always sue, people can sue for anything, but they're not gonna be successful. So if Nate's reaching out, if you haven't heard back, if you can just plug in there and say, does recreational use statute apply here? That should, and then we should be all set.
So what happens when,
But it's not even, you said it's not even our property, it's the state's
It's a
property.
state issue.
Yeah,
Right.
if
So-
that is true,
so
that
can a
would
lawsuit even be filed
You can file a
against the
lawsuit
town?
for anything,
I understand,
it'll
but
get thrown out.
at what cost to the town? We still gotta have counsel going.
Yeah, but people can sue anytime, anything for anywhere, right? Oh, Katie was working with the DPW with the kids on the day and they bumped into my mailbox and they broke it, I'm suing the town.
Yep.
They do it all the time. If someone sues the town, so
It
we
gets
have
thrown out,
insurance,
And it gets thrown out, right?
it gets thrown out. If someone sues the town and they're looking for monetary damages, our insurance kicks in. For almost all claims, there's like a few exceptions that they don't cover, right? If someone's suing the town to make us do or not do something, usually the insurance doesn't kick in because they only cover when it's a damage issue, something that damages. But in general, it's not our property, it's the state property. Even if it was our property, I would say recreational use statute, but aside from that being our property,
that is incredibly frustrating because the response that elicited this response was from a doctor who works for DCR who spoke with DCR's lawyers before he responded, and this statute was not mentioned once.
recreation use statute.
Hmm.
He also didn't, do an internship for a Superior Court judge.
Probably not. I can't speak for Mr. Clark, but he
There you
might.
go. Touche.
So,
We're-
but it's something not everyone knows about, right, like anything else, but
DCR should know.
Apparently not the gentleman who responded to Nate.
I would just send it to
Alright, so
legal
more
and
clarity-
say,
more
and maybe
clarity
I'm
on the
wrong, I
request,
could
I
always
guess,
be
right.
wrong. But again, it's not our property,
Nope, it is not.
so if someone gets harmed on it, that's the state, I think that's why the state takes such a vested interest in where they permit open swimming and where they don't,
For example.
to make sure keeping everyone
the
as safe
state's
as they
requ-
can.
you know, they supposedly, provide the, lifeguards, and we haven't had them for the last couple of years. But that's a state thing, it's not us.
I hear everything
Yeah.
everybody's
Yeah.
saying, but the response that Nate just alluded to was wishy-washy and concerning to me. So I asked for more specific,
And it was forwarded to Caroline last
Information.
Thursday. If I don't hear
and
from
now
her.
you've just,
Mm-hmm.
Heather, you've just added to that with some knowledge you have, which makes me feel a lot better, so
So you should've just asked me in the first place.
we have a more specific question.
Sorry, I had to. Good.
Are we okay on that?
Well, if you ever showed up at a meeting, I would've.
Oh.
I haven't been to a meeting in 3 weeks, in all fairness.
Okay, I also have one, matter, just to let the board know, the board, we got a letter, to the board from Nate, requesting and wanting to open up and begin discussions again on a new contract. And in the letter, he was indicating that he would like to work with one or two members of the board and didn't see that it was gonna be that difficult a situation. And I'm just letting the board know that I'm going to be working with him on that as well. I asked Heather if she would be willing to join me, and she is, so Heather will be the other member of the board, so once we get things going, et cetera, basically 3 of us, and then we'll come back to the board when it's time. The purpose of the transparency, okay?
Chair, I'd imagine we won't even start until you get back from
Right.
your trip.
Right. Alright, no public and press, so motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second.
motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey, get out of